Hello. It's a Monday. Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 246. We're cruising along, people. What do we got in today? Well, another mea culpa from yours truly, Tyler. I'm going to say some apologies. The Olympic road race, the men's and women's stunners in both. Men's Olympic road race, mountain bike race. We talked about that. Quinn Simmons again. And why are the Dutch so bad at communicating? We'll go over all those. It's Monday, July 26th. Is it the 26th? This is the Between Two Wheels podcast. I'm doing fine. I'm at home. I had to set up here in my daughter's room. I just did a court. So I got to change back into my Pink Floyd shirt. It's been. Look, I have a doctor's appointment set up tomorrow, so I'll get a little bit of a follow up. I'm going without the neck brace more and more. And hopefully that's it's fine. The road rash is coming around nicely. Finally getting that under control. Being able to sleep better. I don't know, wear shirts, a few other things, which has been fairly nice. But I thought I'd give a little breakdown here of Scott Hooper. He had crashed. We have a GoFundMe. Last I saw, it was up over $20,000 or around there, right out there. I think it was 19 something. It's probably over 20 at this point. Well done, people. He's off the ventilator. I think he got the feeding tube out. He's been talked to John Novikov yesterday, I believe. So things are looking up for him. I just think he's got a lot of pain. It's all the sternum and ribs, and he's going to be a little bit. So I will put a link in the description of the feed for the YouTube and also on the audio. You click on there. It's just Hooper's Troopers, a link there if you guys want to make any kind of contributions. As a good, upstanding gentleman, he does have a job. He does have benefits, but he's going to take a little bit of time getting back into the swing of things. And who knows what's going to happen with, the person that hit him, what he's going to get out of that. But I really appreciate the community coming out. It's not just some rando looking for, like me. I want to replace my bike. You go find me. On my side, I put a new derailleur hanger on. It was like $15. Put new bar tape on. I splurged a little bit, so I think that was like $40, some good zip tape. That's good. That was my extended. My bike did not hit the ground. It was all me. I mean, my handlebars a little bit, scuffed up the bar tape, which I had actually already needed. Matter of fact, I had a crash earlier this year. Got kind of wiped out. That did destroy my front wheel. That was a slow pace, starting to go up this climb on a local ride that we do, and kind of got taken out. Ruined my handlebar tape, which I just put on the night before. Tore out 2 spokes of my carbon wheel. That's gone. Ruined my helmet. This was just, I did have to replace the helmet. So I bought a new helmet. I've been really having trouble trying to figure out which one to do. I bought a POC. I'm going to give that a shot, but I think it's not going to be my only helmet. I'm going to end up getting another one as well, because it was difficult finding the color and size that I want. They're really having trouble. And there's a lot of ugly helmets out there. POC is not necessarily a great looking helmet, but it vents well. And I really wanted the Specialized Prevail, which I've been using. I could not find it except for hideous colors in my size, medium. I don't have too big of a noggin. The problem I have really with trying to find that, and I wanted a white one. I love it because I'm able to take my glasses, just put them on in the back. I don't know if that'll happen with the POC, but that's probably why I'll have to get a new helmet from there. Okay, let's get into this show. First of all, should I talk about the mea culpas? I wanted to talk about the Quinn Simmons thing, and maybe we'll go to some comments that had here from some people commented on the last video, and basically let's see that I responded to. Let's look at these ones. I know Jason Graffath had said, great to see you recovering, back to hating on the haters. Yes, I might have had a little Norco on me on the last podcast. I also hate cycling trolls like Adam Meyerson he's talking about. If not for the MAGA fiasco and the current social state of affairs, we just chalk all Quinn's antics to youthful exuberance. I think we should do that and enjoy the strong and brash bike racer that he is. Maybe we can bash on him when he runs for public office in 30 years. I hope he doesn't run. But I just thought I started thinking about it, and I was in good points, Jason, but I'm thinking about this. Maybe I don't have a problem with the haters as much. And the reason being is there's a lot of people out there on both sides of the spectrum. Let's just take as an example, LeBron James really spoken out in politics. Colin Kaepernick obviously has done that as well, and people are all up in arms and having issues with that. I don't really care one way or another necessarily. But should those people then be okay to not like those athletes or those celebrities that have differing points of view? Probably. So if they're able to do that and hate on them, then the other side can hate Quinn Simmons for his as well. It's really not that big of a deal. My issue would be, I think you have both sides. The right is all up in arms about Colin Kaepernick or LeBron James, and then they probably, if they even knew about cycling, they would embrace Quinn Simmons and then and mock you for canceling him. But then the other side is exactly the same. You're all they're saying, oh, how dare you be upset about what Colin Kaepernick is bringing up and doing, or LeBron James, and then they're willing to. So it's hypocrisy on both sides. That's all I have to say about it. So maybe I'm rethinking that, and I don't really care so much. Take it or leave it. Simmons actually ends up winning the overall, and I saw the last stage there, stage 5 of the Tour of Wallonia, and he had an Action Berman guy kind of moving in the break there. I think he got the most aggressive rider. Flipping on his name here, but Quinn was going with attacks, especially the late ones, having to do a lot of work himself, where he was having to bridge things up. His team had done great work, and then they had a pitchy climb near the end there, about 17 or so K. He gets in the front group, and he stays up in the front, and you have like 3 or 4 going a quick step. They keep going at it, and he's not letting up. And in the end, Philip Jakobsen ends up getting the win. So he gets 2, Dylan Groenewegen gets 2, and then the American Quinn Simmons gets 1 and the GC. So solid move for Quinn Simmons. Once again, maybe I'll retract a little bit on hating on the haters. Go ahead and do it if you want. But I also want you to understand that people that I think they're insane and very much all about themselves, which is like Phil Guyman, Adam Meyerson. I don't really care what you say, and I'm not a big fan of even your cycling as it is. And it could be the exact same way with Quinn Simmons. So I don't know that maybe I retracted that. Right? Maybe I'm just a little bit. Could be. Was there anything else that I guess some people got pissed off? I mentioned some things at Bariani. I stand by that. You don't need to be, shaking things out as far as going after people or whatever. It's once again, it's bike racing. We're adults. The masters are all heading out to Albuquerque, and these guys do get worked up. I love racing. I love competition. It's one thing that still gets me going. And I got a little feedback too about kind of the racing strategy that John and I had employed at Land Park the day before Bariani. We put a video out in the last lap because there's only 2 of us. Pete's has a bunch of guys that are off in the break. Thirsty Bear had several guys. They're doing things. It was a combined field, so there's those tactics that get played in there as well. John and I have a very simple method, which is we likely can podium him with a sprint finish. That's what it is. So we will chase down. You may think it's negative racing, but it's to our benefit. There's only 2 of us. So if you've got a team of more than 2 and you're worried about the fact that we're chasing you down, maybe that's on you. Just throwing that out there. I mean, there's really 2 of us should not be hauling everyone in. Okay, so let's talk real quick here about the Olympics. And starts off with Carapaz. Well, he ends up winning the gold medal, but it starts off with the men's road race, 234 kilometers. They go up and around kind of Mount Fuji. They have some other kickers. They have this Mikuni Pass that comes about, I think, crests around 17, 20 kilometers to the finish. Then it's downhill, but it's got some ups and downs. They go into this motor park, and you'd think, okay, well, motor park is just, wide road. Everyone could probably line out all the way across. True. However, it's got a little bit of a kickers in there. It's got some little ups and downs, and it's hard to notice those until you see the riders going. So they hit the bottom of the sky. Well, first of all, there's a break that goes up the road, and they have 20 minutes or so, okay? But 234 kilometers, 140 miles, teams are letting this go. I mean, teams a little different with the Olympics, as you know, with their combined, you don't have an 8-man roster. You may have one team with 5, and so they're supposed to be in charge of controlling it. But the Dutch actually do fairly well. The Belgians do fairly well because they're looking for Wout van Aert, and they get Greg Van Avermaet on the front. Then you have the Slovenians, that Jan Tantrik comes out there, and he's doing a lot of work for Pogačar and Roglic, and the dude, it actually slays it. I think he won a mountain stage, I want to say in the Dauphiné, or the Tour of Suisse, one of those, big guy that you're like, he's not going to climb. And then he ends up dropping everybody and does well. So he did a lot of work. He and Greg Van Avermaet are doing a ton of work. Belgium and the Slovenian, they do the right thing, which is, remember, no radios. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they do the right thing of being able to pull the riders back in time, and they hit the climb, and immediately riders are going out the back. G. Thomas had already been down on the ground. It's much more difficult. You can't just send 2 or 3 riders back and then expect them to pull them up, because you're depleting your whole team. So when these riders have some issues, it's a little bit more problematic. However, they hit the climb, they start going up there, and the Belgians, I think Van Samara is really kicking it. Evan Pohl gets spit out early. He had been in a break earlier too, which, you're just like, I don't understand this. I think it's all in for Wout van Aert. Why are you trying to get in a break early on and for multiple kilometers and kind of depleting your team out of this, especially when there's only 5 of them? It makes no sense. But immediately when you see that, you go, oh, I don't think he's in it for the overall, and he's obviously not in it for Wout. So he gets spit out when the climb hits. You start seeing other riders getting pushed off. Valverde, the British ones are getting put out of the back. Only Adam Yates is really staying up there. You then see the American Lawson Craddock. He's not doing well. Brandon McNulty is looking just fine at the start. Then Pogačar, reigning 2-time Tour de France champion, hits out, doesn't attack, and only 2 people are able to go with him. Mike Woods, Canada, and Brandon McNulty. McNulty looking this is a teammate, remember, on the trade team. So you got 2 UAE guys. You have then Mike Woods for Israel Startup Nation, and they start to form a separation. You've got Carapaz back there, maybe Wout van Aert. Maybe we'll try to look here as to who all the ones that were going back, just so as we talk about it, we can give a little better understanding. But you start to see some separation, and Wout's doing a lot of work trying to pull everyone basically up the climb. But what do you have to front? You have UAE, basically, which is McNulty and Pogačar. Now, were they working together? I don't know, but McNulty really was putting a lot of work into this, trying to get that separation, but they don't end up getting a ton. And you come over the top, and the teams, they're just a little bit there, and they end up grouping up, and Mike Woods ends up taking a little flyer, and then you start to see where Wout is chasing everything down. I think that he might have been now also there's about 13 of them there. Excuse me. And you start to see that Wout is willing to basically bring everyone back. It's a little bit much for him, but you got Bauke Mollema, Tadej Pogačar, Wout van Aert, Carapaz, Mike Woods, Brandon McNulty, David Gaudu, Rigoberto Urán, Adam Yates, Schachmann, Kwiatkowski, Fulsang, and I think João Almeida was just off the back, but Fulsang ends up getting spit a little bit there. Kwiatkowski, so you have a few Ineos riders, Kwiatkowski and Carapaz. You have Schachmann, the only Bora rider. You also have Adam Yates. He is Ineos, so you got those 3. Rigoberto, but no one from the same country. Okay, that's what's awesome here. No one from the same country, but you do have a few, and then McNulty and Tadej from UAE, the UAE Emirates team, but nothing for, there's a few trade teams, and then there's just dispersed for everyone else. Mike Woods takes a little move. And I thought that that's actually where Wout should not be chasing that down. He's not going to probably solo his way in. He's just not that kind of rider, because there's some flats that you've got to do there. And maybe then it gives a concerted effort for other guys to, okay, we'll join in, and then everyone isn't depleting themselves for this. But it doesn't matter. Wout ends up chasing everybody down. And when that happens, there's just a little bit of a lull in the race. And Brandon McNulty hits it, and Carapaz comes with him. Very interesting. These two then start to form 15, 20, 30 seconds, 40 seconds at one point. And McNulty can time trial. Obviously in great form coming back from the Tour and doing the work there. He had crashed twice, once in the time trial, once I think just going down the road. So he had obviously had some injuries, and it looks like he would overcome those, and he was a beast. So obviously I think he's a stronger rider in that sense than Carapaz. He had also showed that up the climb he can be a little bit more formidable. They have 20, 30 seconds. They're coming into the last 6K. They come into the motor park there, and they're doing well. And there's a slight rise. McNulty had been working on the front. There's a slight rise, and it looks a little more than a slight rise. And McNulty just has maybe a minute problems. He dangles off the back of Carapaz. I don't know if he thought maybe they were going to get caught. It didn't look like it because he's still fighting. So Carapaz ends up continuing on, and McNulty is now strung out in the middle. He ends up getting caught. So I don't know, 2 or 3K to go. McNulty, the group's coming by. He's suffering, but he's able to lock right in. You're like, man, he just had a momentary lapse of, I don't know, something that happened. Maybe he'd put a little too much effort in the front, and then Carapaz just came through on the wrong point of time. But he did obviously come back to 20-some seconds. Carapaz ends up staying away, able to post up, no problem. And, at this point you have different factions of there's no team to lead anybody out. We saw that, in the World Championships where Roglic was supposed to, do a little work maybe for Wout, paying back for the Tour. That didn't really happen. He said he would try to, but, they're obviously different countries, so you got these different things there. And in the end, Wout does a bike throw, gets it over Pogacar, over Pogacar. So he gets barely finishing a bike throw. For second is Wout. Third was Tadej. You have Baka Mollema, Mike Wood, Brandon McNulty still got up and tried to sprint. So what I see from that is a few things. So McNulty out sprints Gadu, Rigoberto Urán, Adam Yates. And by the way, top 8, 1 through 8, all people who had done well and or been a big part of this year's Tour de France. Just a week ago, Tour de France, this is more like a mountain stage. You'd see at the Tour, big guns hitting every top 8, and all the ones that were in the moves that were just sitting on were pivotal, all have been to Tour de France. You've got Rigoberto Urán at 8th. Obviously, he was in top 3, top 2 for there a while. David Gaudu, he of France, he had been done the Tour. McNulty did a lot of work. Mike Woods was obviously at the Tour. Baka Mollema won a stage. Tadej Pogacar won several stage and the Tour. Wout van Aert won 3 stage and was obviously at the Tour. And Richard Carapaz on the podium for Ineos and get the win for Ecuador. 9th place was Adam Yates, who had come off of the Giro. Schachmann in 10th. Kwiatkowski also did the Tour de France, did a lot of work for Ineos there. In 11th, Fulsang, Almeida, and Alberto Bettiol, kind of the top 15 there. And Bettiol had been kind of in the mix on the climb and then got spit out the EF guy. You can see him with the pink helmet. Okay, so what do you take from this? What I take from this is, one, Carapaz, great ride, latching himself onto McNulty. McNulty did a ton of work on the climb for Pogacar or for himself trying to get clear, and did a ton of work until the last 3Ks when he got spit out. And he had just done a turn on the front. So you kind of say Carapaz, one, great ride by him, but for teaming up with McNulty, that's not going to happen, and Carapaz is not going to win in a sprint over all those guys. So then you see McNulty being able to pull out a 6th place in general, which was pretty good, still being able to try to get up there and sprint. I see with that, you like, if it comes down to Carapaz and McNulty, if he'd been able to hang on, likely he wins the gold medal. I think he outsprints Carapaz without a problem. Disappointing in that respect, but a lot to take away from it for McNulty going forward. Ineos, they get first. They get down there in 9th place. Jumbo, 2nd place, and UAE in 3rd and 6th. Mike Woods, maybe a little disappointment, but he needed to get off the front, and there was no chance for him to basically win a sprint. 3 up there with Wout and Tadej. By the way, interesting to see, once again, Pogacar, one of the best climbers in the world. We talk about the diversity of Wout being able to win time trials, being able to win sprints, and being able to win climbs. But it should not be at all dismissed the finish that Tadej Pogacar, if he wanted to try to line up for full-on sprint finishes, I'm curious as to what it'd be, because he puts these guys, he's done this before, he puts Wout in difficulty bike throws for, breakaway all the time. I mean, he and Roglic can actually put off a good finish. So congrats to them, and pretty stellar for what they were able to do. Let's see if I should have shown this results here on the share screen. There we go. There's your Ecuador Ineos coming in for that. Then you had the women's race. It was half the distance, about 130 some kilometers, and it did not include the climb over the top of Mikuni Pass, which would have been great. Didn't also did not include the climb over or around Mount Fuji. There's a break that gets up the road, I think from kilometer 1. This Anna Kaisenhofer from Austria gets up there, and she's up there with a few other people. They start getting spit out. The Dutch decide at some point that they're not really, I think they were just too brazen and expecting that they're going to be winning, so they didn't really take it too seriously. They leave the break way out there way too long. This Anna Kaisenhofer ends up soloing all the way in for almost a minute and a half or so over Annemiek van Vleuten and then Longo Borghini. What's interesting about that is Van Vleuten comes over the line. You've probably seen this. And she posts up just right off the line. I'm like, oh, she's really happy for a second. No, she thought she had won. She didn't know that there was someone off the front. And then all the news reports are about this story that the Dutch are upset about their communication. They didn't know what was anyone was up the road. That they, the signs weren't given. And Longo Borghini, as an example, she's like, no, I knew there was someone up the road. I counted when they came back. Once again, they're saying, oh, we don't use radios, therefore that's the problem. Okay, well, it's a problem, but they're giving signs. Maybe you don't wait until the last minute to try to bring this back, or maybe you do a little bit more work early on, so it's not the case, right? And we saw that with the Belgians, 20-minute gap out there in the men's road race, and they put on the work on Fuji and around along with Tantric to bring that back so it was not a problem. They didn't leave it up for the climb. They caught him right before the climb or at the bottom. It was not the big issue. Whereas in the women, they're waiting and even catching the two ladies that were in between Conor Kaisenhofer and the remaining field. They didn't catch them until like inside 5K if it was on the motor park. So 5, 4, 3, and somewhere in that range. Look, Van Vleuten, you have no one to blame but yourself. Nice little move that you did there. You cut down 2 minutes. It was still 2 minutes she was up the road when you took off. And you cut it down to about a minute. That's great. But it still would have taken you another, 2 or 3 kilometers to maybe get up to her with that extra minute. So you guys blew it. And then the part of the problem is this Anna Kaisenhofer, who's not a pro. She's just got her math degree or PhD in that. A little strange herself. Then the problem is all the stories are about the Dutch team and how they blew it. And it's everyone else's fault. It's everyone else's fault. So, this young lady, I don't know if she's all that young, but it was very impressive. She could climb well. She was hoping for a top 25. She ends up getting the ride of her life and the Olympic gold medal. And what was sad was at the finish, you're watching this person's like solo. I don't even know if she had any support there. She's just standing there like, I just won. And the whole Dutch team was around her. No one is congratulating her. I think it's pretty pathetic on their part, but it's what it is. They showed themselves to be the losers on the day and not having the proper communication. And there you have it. Winner, Anna Kaisenhofer, Annemiek van Vleuten. Quinn Rivera was in the field there, and they split off. So Van Vleuten and Borghini end up soloing off. And then Quinn Rivera still 1, 2, 3, gets a 7th place, but still 3 or 4 back on the field sprint. So not a bad day, but probably could have looked to done better. Then we had the men's mountain bike racing last night. I just got up this morning and saw the end of it. And you can see the headlines here. No fractures for Van der Poel after Tokyo Olympic crash. Yes, Tom Pidcock takes unbelievable Olympic gold weeks after breaking a collarbone. Okay, so that was I guess impressive. But Nino Schurter, probably the most well-known mountain biker here, he ends up getting surpassed by Pidcock with about, they're about 40 minutes in the race. Pidcock took over. He did a great job, but early on, I think at lap 1, let me see if we can even find a picture of it. Matthew Van der Poel comes off this steep drop and endos right over the front. never, he went down hard, and he was in the top little 7 or 8 riders there. The problem, and then he ended up trying to fight back on, but he ended up abandoning. But what it is evidently there was a ramp there in practice. Ramp had been removed, and so maybe he thought he was at a different point in the race, and it was just a drop, and he needed to get a little momentum and jump off the top. So he was blaming the fact that it had changed, and then the coaches are saying, no, we had told everybody, we talked about it multiple times that it was not a problem, and that, that this ramp had been removed, and that Van der Poel still wasn't able to avoid the crashing there. A little disappointed there. Good news out there for road fans that want him to just ride road is he raced like a roadie. I mean, that's a move that a roadie, that's something I would do. Pidcock didn't quite have the skills that some of these other ones, but man, he did have the uphill going and quite the motor. So very impressive for him. I was glad to see two distinguished road riders take it out over the mountain bikers and kind of put them in their place is the right way to go about it. But it was pretty thrilling nonetheless to see that happen. I thought we just continue on the communications by the Belgians. BMX racer Quinn collides with official training. A Dutch rider confirms sore knee after crashing into an individual trying to cross BMX course. I think it was an official. I don't know. Maybe he didn't have radio, so they weren't able to let him know that there was someone on course. Is this a little bit too far, Tyler? Perhaps. Okay, so what else do you have going on in the world of cycling? Well, we're going to have some track coming up. It would be interesting to see if Ineos is going to be able to do a trifecta here of winning the mountain bike with Pidcock, winning the men's road race with Carapaz, and then if he's going to get Ghana up there in Ineos or G. Thomas for the men's individual time trial. Also saw Chloe Dygert did not finish in the front group, but she definitely finished in front of others. So I think she was like 5 or 6 minutes back. So that's at least impressive to see her going there. Comments if you want about how you don't like Chloe because of her politics as well. I understand it. Don't care. I like to see her win, just like it's America. That's what we like to do. Otherwise, we're going to start ramping up for the Vuelta here. It'll be interesting to see. I understand Quinn Simmons will be going to the Vuelta, so he'll get his chance. 20-year-old going to go to the Vuelta. I think Bernal might be going to the Vuelta as well. I think you're getting Sepp Kuss heading into the Vuelta. Other than that, people, hope you've enjoyed the Olympics. BMX. We got some BMX. We got some track. I don't know what else you like watching the Olympics. I'm not a fan of basketball in the Olympics. It never has excited me. I like to see more of the amateur, other stories. Kind of gone away from Olympics in general in a little bit of the last several years. But men's volleyball, which I do play and help coach, that to me is one of the most exciting. I love the Olympic volleyball, especially indoor. It's such a powerful sport. If you want to see, basically, I tell people like some my nephews that wanted to get him into, they were big in basketball. Said, "You want to dunk every time? Come play volleyball, be a middle hitter, and learn how to spike." All right, that's all we have today, everybody. Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler, episode 246. I think we'll try to do another one of these while I'm injured. Thanks, everybody. Bye.